This week's episode is brought to you by DaVinci Virtual. DaVinci Virtual provides awesome support solutions for mobile entrepreneurs. They level the playing field for your company so you can achieve maximum potential with minimum overhead. DaVinci Virtual offers friendly live receptionist services, killer business addresses, and fully loaded meeting spaces anywhere you need them. DaVinci helps entrepreneurs become something bigger. Give your business the powerful image and support it deserves so you can focus on your talents and grow it. Get a risk-free trial right now at DaVinciVirtual.com/smart and make it happen.
The podcast where we talk to smart people, but not necessarily done by smart people.
That is an awesome question.
This one goes down probably on one of my top 5.
Hey, I like nutrition. I like to eat food.
This is the coolest thing ever. We're going to do this forever.
I wish I paid more attention in that class.
You know, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand that. As a man, I don't get it.
Welcome to smartpeoplepodcast.com.
Welcome to Smart People Podcast, conversations that satisfy your curious mind. I'm John Rojas, and thank you so much for joining us this week. Chris isn't here this week, and for good reason, but I will let him explain the reason on the next episode, so you're just going to have to wait till at least next week. This week, we're talking about time management, and we have one of the best in the field, Lee Cockerell. Lee is the former executive VP of Disney World and the author of 3 best-selling books. Lee was responsible for all guest operations at Disney World for 10 years. And before Disney, Lee held executive positions within Hilton and Marriott International. As if being an executive wasn't enough, in 2006, Lee founded his own consulting and seminar business and publishes the popular podcast Creating Disney Magic. As you'll hear in the interview, Lee is a partner at Thrive 15, and since we're an affiliate with Thrive 15, you can get your 30-day free trial by going to thrive15.com/smartpeople. If there's one thing I can do better in my life, it's time management, and Lee gives us and all you listeners some great tips on how to do time management better in your life. He's taken all his experiences in the Army, at Hilton, Marriott, Disney, and packed it into one book, Time Management Magic: How to Get More Done Every Day and Move from Surviving to Thriving. Check out his book and enjoy the interview with Lee Cockerell.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for being on the show. It is a privilege and an honor to have one of the men who made Walt Disney World what it is today, to have him on our show. I can't tell you how excited I am. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, good to be with you.
So let's jump right into that, actually. I know there's far more that defines you, but as I was saying before the episode, Walt Disney World, I mean, I remember, it's probably one of the earliest memories I have, going when I was little and getting autographs from Daffy Duck and Donald Duck and all this. I remember staying in this hotel room, and it is this magical place. And, now looking back and having read about what you did there, I realized that magic was hard to create, and it was through the people. Tell us a little bit about how you guys did that.
Yeah, and I think that's the right message for your listeners is the first sentence in my book, Creating Magic. It says, it's not magic that makes Disney World work. It's the way we work that makes it magical. And frankly, I kind of give you the formula that I think if everybody would focus on these things, they could do it in their own business. I don't care if it's a small business or a big business. And the first thing I really considered myself the chief environmentalist at Disney because I was trying to create an environment and a culture where you get everybody to wake up in the morning excited to come to work, not because they have to come for a paycheck, because they want to come. And so the place where we do the best jobs are, I think, number one, we're very careful who we hire. We have a very good system for interviewing, for what to listen to, for profiling, for understanding what people are good at. Do they have high energy? Do they have stamina? Will they be on time to work? Can they be professional? 8 hours, 9 hours out there in the hot sun and smiling and all that stuff. So we do a really terrific job of selection, which I think a lot of companies do not. And even I wrote a second book, Customer Rules, and rule number 9 in there is all about how to ask 5, 6, 7 key questions with obstacles in them to see how people answer your question about how they overcome obstacles in their life, because what we've learned is people who can clearly tell you how they overcome obstacles are your best performers. Because there's the can-do people in the world and the can't-do people.
Wow.
And, the can-do people get to work and the can't-do people are late, and they both come on the same interstate. So, and in Chicago, there's people that get to work and then people come late. It was because of the snow. So, same old story. The problem with can't-do people is they believe their excuses, so we try not to hire too many of them.
I really love what you were saying there about if people can explain how they get through some obstacles. Because I remember being on an interview once, and it was question after question of tell me about a time when blank happened. And looking back now, I just got frustrated because I was like, I can't think of that many times, right? Like I don't have, but I now see it's more of a, just tell me about a thought process for overcoming this that you do consistently.
I'd say just like in for each job, you develop 5, 6, 7 questions, and I'll have an obstacle in each one of them. So a sales position might be a different question. A retail person working on a cash register, those would be a little different question. A question might be, tell me about a specific time you had to deal with an irate customer. And then what you want to do is listen to how they did it and what was the outcome. And it's amazing. When you interview 5 people in a row, you ask them the exact same questions in the same order. The cream comes to the top. That person who knows how to handle it can talk about it all day long, what they did. They took 2 weeks. They called the customer back. They apologized. They sent flowers. And the other person just said, people are difficult, and we couldn't really do anything about it. And because people can only talk about what they do. And so it's a great system, and people can get a lot better at it. Let me tell you, if you hire better people, you're going to have a better business and a better bottom line. So that's the one thing. The second thing we do probably better than anybody in the world, and if everybody'd start paying more attention to this, they'd get better results, is training. We train, test, and enforce the training. We train you, we test you, and then we enforce it. And, a lot of people train you, but they don't really test you to make sure it took place. Then they don't really enforce it. They kind of let it go. And next thing you know, you got chaos. And so we hire great people and train them, test them, enforce the training. And when you do that, it's pretty incredible what kind of service they will provide. And you see that at Disney World. The chances you running into a rude cast member at Disney is 0. I mean, it just doesn't happen because we're careful about that selection. And I think the last thing we do is we really create a good culture, a culture where everybody works there matters and they know they matter. And we pay attention to them, whether they're cleaning bathrooms or whether they're an executive. Everybody matters. It's an important concept. If you're not a leader who really believes that, you're not going to be successful. If you got bigotry chewing at you about you don't believe those people are as good as those people, and you don't like that religion, and you don't like that sexual orientation, and you don't like this, and you don't like that, you're not going to be a very good leader. Because let me tell you what, none of that's your business, first of all. The only business you have in business is to focus on performance. It doesn't matter where they go to church or what religion they practice or anything else. Just stay out of that stuff and focus on performance. And that's where people get off base. They worry too much about a bunch of stuff they shouldn't be worrying about. And so we create a pretty strong culture and an environment, and I think people see it when they come to Disney World. And you talk about simplicity. Hire people, train them, and then create a culture where they feel appreciated.
Yeah, why is that still such a hard thing for companies to do well?
I have no idea. I'm trying to figure what is your problem, people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give your listeners a good example. What is the one thing or the 2 things that really parents worry about? Education, training for their children, and safety. And every day at Disney World, before we start every shift, we talk to all the cast members about safety and about training, about focus on the customer. And they hear this over and over and over. It's like your mother talking to you. She never gives up. She keeps going. That's why I said I'm going to write a book called Manage Like a Mother. Mothers just keep on it because they want you to be successful. And that's what we do. It's simplistic. If people pay more attention to it, you go to so many places today. You walk in, the people are not trained. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know the product. They don't know how to do things. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then you get a bad reputation because you don't have consistent service, and then people go somewhere else.
I know. It's so crazy. I had an issue with Amazon the other day, and I called, and the person not only spent the time to fix it and then had to call me back, and they called me back promptly, but then they talked to me about some things outside of my problem, just like, shooting the stuff. And that leaves a lasting impression. And it took 10 minutes out of their day instead of 3. You know what I mean?
No question. My wife had the same thing with Amazon. She ordered some china. A bowl came broken, a $65 bowl. I think the order was $700. She sent them a note. In 1 minute, Amazon called her back.
Wow.
And the lady said, "What can I do for you?" She said, "This bowl was broken." The lady said, "Well, I can either give you a new bowl or give you a credit right now." My wife said, "Hold it. My husband's writing a book about customer service, the customer rules."
Oh, wow.
She said, "How were you able to make that decision?" Without talking to a manager or getting approval. She said, "Only policy we have here is make the customer happy."
Wow.
Yeah,
It doesn't
pretty
seem that
simplistic.
hard.
And let me tell you, UPS and FedEx comes to my house every day. My wife buys stuff on Amazon every single day.
Yes. Believe me, I get that same delivery too. But they earned it. Well, one of the things I know, you implemented the Disney Great Leader Strategies, which trained, I think it was over 7,000 leaders at Disney. When you came on board, was there, at that time, did you have a lot of changes to make? What was a problem facing Disney at that, Disney World at that point?
Oh, I think it's like any company. When you think you're hot stuff, you kind of slack off a little bit. You're not on top of your game like you had been. They were doing great. They were the number one destination. Everything was great, but we needed to be better because we could hear the footsteps coming. Competition was coming for one reason: internet. All of a sudden, a little hotel in the middle of nowhere could get a big ad up on the internet and get bookings. Disney used to control their customers through television advertising, which most people can't spend money on. And we felt the footsteps, and we decided only way we're going to compete is the customer doesn't come first, leadership does. We got to get better leaders in every position, every single one of them, so they create a great environment and a culture for the cast members, so the cast members wake up in the morning and take care of the guests because they want to, not because they have to, and the bottom line will show up. And that was a simple concept. We started hiring better people. Every time we had an opening, we did a better job of getting a better person. Every time we promoted somebody, we were more careful. And over the years, we just got stronger and stronger leaders. And today, I would tell you, the average cast member at Disney will tell you they have a great leader. They really have respect for.
So what was that Disney Great Leader Strategies?
Well, I wrote 12 strategies because basically the first one was remember everyone's important, get your organizational structure correct. Second one was about training. The third one was about what professionalism looks like. There's one about policies, procedures, and operating guidelines, how to think about those. And basically the reason I did it, we needed to have all 7,000 managers on the same page about expectations, or when we were going to hire somebody from outside the company. We went over that Great Leader Strategy for 4 hours with them to make sure they understood what they're getting into and what the expectations are and whether they wanted to really work here or not. And that's what, it was just kind of a guideline to say, now you're not back where you used to work. You're coming to Disney, and there's only one way to do things here. That's the Disney way. So if you don't like it, don't take this job because you're not going to be successful here. You can't come here and do your own thing. I remember Southwest Airlines said a few years ago, they said there's a best way to land an airplane. Let's all land it that way. And so that's why I put it together, and it became kind of the Bible. But here's the way you work at Disney. Here's what we believe about leadership. Here's what we believe about management. Here's what we believe about customer service, about authority, about policies, and about professionalism. You got to define professionalism because a lot of people, I don't know if they really know what it is. I think they're making it up as they go. And the way you look, personal appearance, grooming guidelines, we really hammered those down so that when you come to what we're doing, we're putting on a show there. Mm-hmm. The curtain opens, and every business out there in the world is putting on a show. Have you selected the right people? Have you trained them? Do you have the right script? Do you rehearse it? Do you take people out of the show that can't perform? Get new people, get better people. The leading lady's got to be terrific, not average. That's how we think about it, putting on a show. As I say to people, you don't have to be happy to work at Disney. You got to act happy for 8 hours.
Well, that's actually a perfect transition into what I was going to ask is, how do you keep these employees motivated? How do you find the ones that don't mind, say, doing this in the hot sun for 8 to 9 hours a day with kids spilling ice cream all over the place or screaming or getting lost? I mean, there's a lot that goes on, and it sounds like you've somehow managed to create this culture where you can lead strongly. You can tell them kind of, here's how you have to act, what you have to do, where you have to be, what you wear, how you're going to groom yourself. But people still feel like they have some individuality or some purpose. That's a tough line to walk.
Well, I think a couple things we do that other companies ought to be doing. First, to go to work at Disney today, you have to go on the internet and answer 136 questions about yourself. It's a predictive to whether you have high energy, do you have stamina, a lot of questions that lead to that answer. Do you have discipline? Do you have the ability to keep your mood at a high level all day long? And those are very predictive questions we ask. A lot of people don't get through it. So first of all, we sort them out pretty quick right there. And then you go over and we show them a film about Disney expectations. And that film is very straightforward. It clarifies our expectations about being on time to work, about grooming, no tattoos, no visible piercings, no weird hair colors. And at the end, the people who don't like that, about 20 to 25% get up and leave and decide not to work for Disney. So we sort them out there again. So we've sorted them out up front, and we sort them out by being so clear with them that they have no. One guy said to me, "I don't want to work here. It's like the Army." I said, "That's right. And the U.S. Army and Disney are the best." And so that's how. So that's another way. And then we have a great onboarding. They go for a full day of traditions course to learn about the company, the culture. We really, literally inject pixie dust into their veins. When they come out of there, then their leaders treat them right and respectfully. And I think the other thing, they know they have opportunity. If you're smart, you do a good job, and you have a good attitude, and you're organized, you can get into management, you can get ahead, you can get promoted. There's 73,000 people working at Disney, so there's huge opportunity. And I think when people have hope and you're treating them right and you give them the training, that sends a lot of good messages to them. Hey, this is a pretty cool place. They care about me.
And now a quick message from this week's sponsor, Future Advisor. Think you'll have enough money to retire? Not necessarily. Hidden broker fees and unexpected taxes make your advisor and Uncle Sam richer while you slave away through your 70s. Not with Future Advisor. Future Advisor's Nobel Prize winning strategy and intuitive financial software ensures you get the most out of your investments so you're able to retire sooner. They've been featured in Fortune, Wall Street Journal, and Fox News, and their software is so efficient, they'll show you where your current portfolio is lacking and how to fix it for free. Just plug in your investments and let Future Advisor take it from there. The whole thing takes 2 minutes. Make the changes yourself, or if you'd like, Future Advisor will manage your portfolio for a fraction of what your advisor charges. This past weekend, I plugged in my investments, and boy, do I have a lot of room for growth. If you have any type of retirement account, do what I did. Go to futureadvisor.com/smartpeople and get a free portfolio analysis. Future Advisor, a report about your money and a plan for the future in under 2 minutes. Absolutely free. Go to futureadvisor.com/smartpeople. And now back to the show.
Now, do you ever hear people say, wow, that, like you said, it sounds like the Army. It sounds a little too rigid for me.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Those people decide not to be there.
And you're okay with that, right? You say there's probably a place elsewhere that they'll thrive, but it's just not here.
And now we found that even over the years when somebody wasn't performing, even at executive levels, and we had to let them go or push them out of the company, they went to other places and are very successful, because they had a lot of talent. But it's a combination of talent at Disney, of technical talent, being a good organized manager, and having these good leadership ability to respect people and to be out there with the people all day long and to be a good leader and behave properly. And those combinations are hard to have it all. So we have to look hard for it, because if you want to be great, you got to have great people. If you want to be average, you can hire average people. They're easier to find.
That's definitely true. Now, I know that your mindset, or at least your managerial style, wasn't always something to be admired, I guess. You, by your own admission, you were not an easy boss to work for early on. What made you who you were initially and then made you change?
Well, first of all, I was a very insecure young guy. I grew up on a little farm in Oklahoma. We didn't even have indoor plumbing. We were poor as could be. My mother was married 5 times. I never met my father. I was adopted twice. I got my name Cockerell when I was 16 years old. I went to college, dropped out because I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't know how to study, actually. Went up, had a great lot of fun for 2 years, went in the Army, became a cook, eventually got out of the Army and got a job as a banquet waiter at the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. And I was insecure, so then I got into management training program. The reason I got into management was because I've got a really good attitude and positive. When the boss says come at 5 in the morning, I'm there. When he says come back at 10 o'clock tonight, I'm there. And I'm smiling and no problem. I make my bosses really happy. And then I'm real organized. I'm very reliable and credible. I keep my promises. And they like that. So I started getting promoted. Next thing I know, now I'm a manager. Now I got people reporting to me. And that insecurity came popping out. I pushed people hard with my discipline. I set deadlines. I held them to deadlines. I'm very straightforward and candid, which sometimes really intimidates people. And I started abusing my position because I had authority and I didn't use it properly. And went through the years, and finally I had a bad situation where one of my direct reports, when I became a vice president at Marriott, had to go to the hospital because he was so intimidated I was coming. He almost had a nervous breakdown, and the guy went in for observation. And he and I had dinner that night and talked about it. It was very embarrassing to me. I think I knew deep down my mother and grandmother would kill me if they knew I was treating people that way. But what happened, I was in those days in the 60s and the 70s and 80s where people just pushed people around and you did what the boss said. I didn't hear the word leadership for many, many years. I just heard about get it done. And then they gave me company cars and stock and promotions. And so, you start behaving like everybody else eventually, which is you got to be careful of in your life. We always worry about our kids, behaving improperly, being around the wrong children and starting bad habits. But so I started thinking about it. And I went to a leadership class for 3 days down in Kentucky at the University of Kentucky. Then I started reading about leadership. And I really worked on myself. I knew I needed to change. And this insecurity and I started getting more and more successful in my career. And slowly but surely, I started trusting people. I started giving people authority. Back then, my nickname was Doberman. I tell people now I'm Cocker Spaniel. So
oh my gosh, that's
I've come
awesome.
a long way. But this is insecurity. I can tell your listeners, anytime somebody raises their voice, yells at you, tries to control you, tries to scare you or intimidate you, that's an insecure person. And I know that. And I've really learned a lot about it. I see it when that's why I became a pretty good manager and a leader because I could spot it. And then I knew I had to work with that person to calm them down because insecure people overreact because they're trying to protect themselves and they're trying to hide it. And they're insecure about losing their job or being embarrassed or whatever. And so I had to go through I had to have a good talk with myself, and it was a hard change. It took me year after year to kind of get there, and today I don't have that problem anymore, but it was tough.
Yeah, and I know, as you mentioned, you started off, as a banquet waiter and worked basically in hospitality almost your whole life, which most people don't do anymore, a lot of jumping around. And I really I looked at your career path and I said, you just worked your butt off kind of every day, it seemed like. And next thing you know, you're pretty much running Disney World, which is impressive. You don't see that as much anymore.
That's a miracle, isn't it? I tell people if you talk to my teachers in high school, they wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, what do you...
Yeah, they'd say somebody stole my identity. So but I can tell people today, college kids call me and they say, Lee, I spend an hour with you to understand how I can have a great career like you did? And I said, no, you don't need to spend an hour with me. I'll tell you. You got to be better than everybody else. 10 people do the job you do, you got to be the best one. And that means the best attitude, positive, can-do attitude. You've got to be reliable. You've got to have a system in place to keep track of what you're working on, be on time, get your work in on time. Raise your hand when the boss says, I need somebody to take this on. Be one of these added, people that take on added work and work hard. And it's funny, when you outperform everybody else, they're not going to look at what degree you have or what grades you make or your transcript. That's how you get through. I wouldn't suggest people try to go without a college degree today, But I'll tell you one thing. I think that key to being great attitude and highly reliable are still pretty much wanted by any boss out in the world.
Yeah, and one of the things that I picked up on that I like is you said, it kind of bridges both gaps here, is you said when you were at Disney and the people that stayed beyond the training, so they made it through all the questions and the classes and all that, when they went out to work, their leaders respected them and did a lot of things to make them want to be there. And I think that's the key is oftentimes people, like I know I've had jobs where I worked hard and then they just kept asking more of me with no recognition. And eventually that's how you create a poor culture.
You just hit the right word, I tell you. Appreciation, recognition, encouragement's the fuel that drives human performance. When you give it to people, they'll give you more. When you treat people, as I said, if you care for your people, tell them. If you love your wife, tell her. Don't keep it to yourself. And we all want it. And everybody misses opportunities. It doesn't cost a dime for you to tell somebody, I really appreciate the good job you're doing. I'm glad you're with us. I hope you stay with us. Let me know if I can do anything for you. All of a sudden, this person doesn't look for another job. They do a better job tomorrow morning. They sleep better tonight. Everything gets better when you give appreciation, recognition, and encouragement. It's a very strong fuel that doesn't cost a penny.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, it sounds like it's one of those things. I can almost hear people like listening and going, well, yeah, that makes sense. But it's so almost few and far between these days. It goes a long way.
A lot of parents know it anyway. How often do they tell their kids they love them?
Right.
Right. And then often they don't tell their wife often enough. Right?
Yeah.
So we've just got to remember it. It just needs to be something we've got to start to remember, and it's got to become a part of who we are. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a leader, you need to show appreciation. All the work's getting done by the other people. Let me tell you, on 9/11, there's nothing I could do except step back and watch our people in action, and they did an incredible job. Mm. And there's nothing I could do. It took 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people to clear those parks and get everybody back in their hotels and take care of business, and that's when it really sticks out, is those people did it because they wanted to, not because they had to.
I never thought about kind of from your perspective on, say, 9/11 in just basically managing, I don't know, is it the world's largest resort, Disney World?
Disney World is the largest single-site employer anywhere.
Wow.
Besides maybe a military base somewhere. But we are the single-site largest employer in Orlando, 72,000 people, plus about 20,000 contractors. So there's about 100,000 people a day are working out there.
That's crazy. And so you are the former executive VP of operations. Does that mean you are basically at the top of the organization chart when it comes to what every person in every role is supposed to be doing that day?
Well, that's correct. While I didn't always know, but I had a great team around me, and we had it broken. I had experts at every point, and they knew what they were doing. And that's, at the end of the day, those days are over where the boss can go around acting like he knows everything. You've got to have experts in IT. Can you imagine websites, finance, strategy, purchasing, all these things? And that's again our key. I had great direct reports. They ran the business, and I supported them, both emotionally and with whatever else they needed to do their job. And I didn't get in their way, and I didn't try to micromanage them. And I don't have a need to know everything, so they can go do their job, and they like that.
Yeah, it's a word you used earlier was trust. You kind of put your trust in them.
Absolutely, because if you don't great people today, a lot of your listeners, they'll quit if they're not trusted and if they're not involved and you don't give them work that is meaningful. Mm-hmm. They'll just go to another company. These kids today, they don't hang around if they don't feel appreciated.
It's so true. And I think what you said, it's even more so is the meaningful. Like I know for the past 3 years, I've worked at a nonprofit for far below I probably could make elsewhere. I mean, I made less there at 28 than I did out of college working in finance. But you give me meaningful work and some autonomy and a goal, it's just so much more fulfilling.
Absolutely. And I tell you, when we hire people, we're looking for people with skill, but that's not the most important thing. What you're really looking for is this passion and this can-do attitude, because passionate can-do people, they're high potential. You can train them and they'll be one of your best stars. Mm-hmm. And if you don't love what you do every day, it's pretty miserable.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, one of the things, I know you have a new book, Time Management Magic. And so previously you had Creating Magic. I love the magic theme, by the way. It's like Disney, man, the place it holds in my heart is great. But Time Management Magic, How to Get More Done Every Day. Now, why did you decide to go with time management? I mean, there's so many different things you've talked about, you've written on. What made you choose time management?
Well, I wrote the first book, Creating Magic, which is really around leadership. The second book, The Customer Rules, is around customer service. And so I was thinking at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you know or what you're passionate about if you don't get it done, if you don't implement, if you don't take action. And so this time management is something I'm really good at. I've been teaching it for over 35 years. I developed a system. It's really strong. It really works. Already I'm getting notes from people who've read the book saying, wow, I didn't realize. Because one thing, it's not taught in high school and it's not taught in college, so people don't know how to organize themselves. They don't know how to set priorities. They don't know how to pick the 3 or 4 or 5 important things in their life and focus on them and let everything else fall by the wayside. And people just need some really education around this subject, because at the end of the day, it's not about time management. It's about keeping your life under control. Keep your kids under control, your health, your job, your performance, your learning, your aging parents, how are you going to take care of them, your retirement, your education, going back and getting your finance degree or whatever you're going to do. You just think of all the things you got to worry about. And most people don't worry about them, and then they turn around one day and it's Christmas again, and then next thing they know, they've been working 30 years and they're very unhappy because time gets away from you, and you've got to sit back and really grab it again, because even one of my promotion pieces says, you and Einstein had the same thing in common, 168 hours a week. He gets a lot done. You didn't get much done this week. And it's a wonderful subject. And it can really balance your life. It can make you healthier. It can make you think about the important things so you don't have regrets someday that you wish you'd have been home for dinner more often. You wish you had exercised before you had the bypass surgery. You wish you had done better at investing before so you could have a retirement. All these things are coming, and they come quick. And when you're young, it doesn't seem like it. But let me tell you, years go by. I'll be married 47 years next August. And,
wow.
I married a 22-year-old, and now she's on Medicare. This is how life goes by.
Wow. That's an interesting way of looking at it, actually. I like that timeline.
It goes by quick. I mean, I have my son, Daniel. He's 46. Where'd he come from?
Yeah, right.
How can I have a 46-year-old son? I have grandkids in college.
Oh, man.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have regrets. You need to wake up every morning and make the most of it. You spend your money and you spend your time. Most people spend their money pretty good, but they don't spend their time wisely. And when you don't spend your money wisely, you get in credit card debt. If you don't spend your time wisely, you get in all kinds of deficits. And I will say that where you spend your time is going to be directly related to how your life turns out. From your health to your marriage to your children, to every part of your life will be related to how you figure out how to spend your time every day.
Smart People Podcast is supported by Wealthfront, the automated investment service that makes it easy to invest your money the right way. Wealthfront's software manages your money using investment strategies that were previously only available to the wealthiest investors for just 1/4 of the cost of using a traditional advisor. Wealthfront monitors your account 24/7, automatically rebalancing your portfolio, reinvesting dividends, and working to maximize your after-tax returns. Wealthfront is overseen by a team of investment experts, the same experts who launched the index fund revolution and who have written some of the most important books in finance. In case you're still not convinced, you should know that Wealthfront manages over $2 billion in client assets and have saved millions of dollars on taxes for its clients. So with Wealthfront watching over your investments every day, what will you do with all your extra time? Visit wealthfront.com/smartpeople to get your first $10,000 managed for free. Wealthfront Inc. is an SEC-registered investor advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risks, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure.
Now, how much do you think of this mindset around time management came from, I know you were in the Army for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you kind of learned the basics of that there?
I did learn a lot about discipline, and they don't really accept many excuses in the Army, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't come to formation late, ever.
Yeah, yep.
You don't come to dinner late, because there's no dinner after about 30 minutes. And yeah, I did learn a lot about discipline, and I like discipline, and I like routine, and I like things organized, and I think most people who go to work every day like to work in a disciplined organization so they know how things work, how things come. And you just think about how important discipline is in anything. Flying an airplane, all this thing this week, discipline around doing it the right way. Sometimes you're in a business where lives are at stake, and other times you're service. You ruin somebody's anniversary because they come to the restaurant, you don't do a good job, and it's their 50th wedding anniversary, and it's a disaster. I mean, you got to be organized, and or you do a lot of damage in life. And so I love this subject. I just love it. I love the impact it's having on people. And part of that is that Thrive 15 that I was telling you about, I just did 7 videos on this new website, Thrive 15, and I put it up there because I guarantee you, if you don't get things done, nothing else really matters, no matter how much. You can read my other 2 books, but if you can't implement them, so what? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I want to talk about Thrive 15 in a minute because I love the fact that it's based on 15-minute videos. So it's like you don't have an excuse not to learn a little bit every day. But I wanted to continue on this topic of time management because, you've been teaching it for 30 years. I know you're a sought-after speaker. You've written a number of books. For those of us out there going, okay, look, I know I have to manage my time better. I mean, even I've probably interviewed 5-10 people about time management, yet I still do a fairly, I'd say maybe a mediocre job at best. What do I do? Where do I start? How do we fix this?
It's kind of like anything. You've got to get more serious.
Yeah.
The problem is people only change for one of 2 reasons. Either education, so you might read the book and say, wow, I can do this, or crisis. When you have a few crises in your life because you didn't do the right thing, when you didn't teach your son something and they end up getting hurt badly, or when you didn't exercise and have bypass surgery, or when, then you start to say, I guarantee a crisis. My wife almost died a few years ago, and it changed my whole focus on many things. And crisis can change you, and so can education. And I think you got to decide, how important is your health? Well, then you got to get more organized about it. How important is your family? How important is your work? How important is your family, your mother and father? And I think a lot of times when we read, like a lot of people read Creating Magic and they go, wow, that's good. I like that. I get every day. It's used in a lot of colleges now. I get hear from students every day. Well, then you go read the customer rules, and somebody says, wow, I never thought about that. I could do those things in my business. Because, we only know what we know. And that's why we need to read. That's why we need to go on websites like this Thrive 15 and watch a 15-minute video. And maybe the light comes on. When the light comes on, that's sometimes what gets you to change. You just got to find ways to turn the light on. And everybody's busy today, so people got 12 excuses why they can't do everything. And you don't need to do everything. You got to figure out the top 3 or 4 things you got to do. And then you got to work on it because the only person you can control in your life is you. Nobody else. You can't control your wife. You can't control. You've got to control yourself. And if you don't, you're going to have regrets. And you've got to sit back and get a system in place. Most people run their businesses with systems, but most people don't have a system for their personal life and how to run their whole life. And really, if you don't have a system to remind you what to do and get your appointments and get your doctors on time and get your annual checkup and meet with your financial counselor and change the oil in your car at the right time so you don't burn it up and get your air conditioners checked in April before the summer comes. And I write down everything. Every time I think of it, I stick it in my day timer and then I forget about it until I open it up in that day and there it is. And then that day I do it. And it's just a habit. You got to practice this for 30 to 60 days, and then you'll do it. It's like anything. Is it easy? No. But anything that's worthwhile is not easy. It's hard.
So what about, I know you've said, and I've heard this before, kind of choose the 3 things, maybe the 3 things that day, month, year. Do you talk at all about how to choose those things properly?
Yeah, I can tell you, I have 3 things I focus on. I can tell you, if I just walked up to any person on the street and said, tell me the 3 things that are top of mind for you that's most important in your life you're working on every day, they go, bah, 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 bah.
Right.
They don't know. And I do. I know. Number 1 for me is my health and taking care of myself. And people say, well, it's a little selfish. I said, no, my wife said, Lee, take care of yourself or you can't take care of your family. And so I exercise every day. I have a strength trainer twice a week. I'm about to turn 71. I'm very strong. I weigh exactly what I weighed when I got out of the Army, 180 pounds 50 years ago. I am in great shape. Last week I walked 70 miles last week.
What?
Most weeks I do at least 40, and many weeks 50. I walk 6 to 8 miles a day. I do it on purpose. I do it early in the morning. I do it in the afternoon. Sometimes I do it while I'm talking on the phone. Sometimes I go to the airport early when I got a flight and walk for an hour, get another 7,000 steps in. My weight is good. I feel good. I have high energy. And, if you don't have high energy, it's hard to be a good leader. It's hard to be a good parent if you're snapping at your kids and you don't want to hear it. And so these are things you got to decide. So health is number one. My family is number two. And number three is my finances and my business. And I work on those three things, and everything else falls by the wayside. I mean, if I get those three done, then I can go look at my Facebook page and promote it, or I can go have a drink with friends, or I can go play golf or go do something. But I got to get those three things done. And you need to know what are the three most important things. And when you get those done, you're like, man, let me tell you, you get your health in shape, you get your family in shape, and you get your business in shape. You don't worry about too many other things.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like those goals could be pretty similar across most people's, mindsets.
And look around. How many people are taking care of themselves?
Right. Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. And it's that lack of prioritization. I mean, I do this thing at the end of every night. I write down the three things that made the day a good day. And yesterday was the first day in probably months that I struggled to kind of go, well, what did I achieve? And it changed the way I operated today. So it's kind of that awareness,
Good for you. You know what people say all the time? I'm going to exercise when I find time.
Right.
You don't find time. You make time for what's important in your life. You don't find any time. You can't get one more second than anybody else. We're all on a level playing field.
Absolutely.
You make time for your kids. You make time for your health. You make time for your business. And you don't find. There's no extra time floating around.
Absolutely. Well, I know we only have a couple more minutes with you, but I did want to talk about Thrive 15, which I'm not sure if this episode will air before the other one, but we did interview the COO, I believe it is, as well. And it's a fantastic website. I'm a big fan for so many reasons, primarily because there's a lot of lessons taught by people like yourself on there. And I didn't realize you're also an investor in it. So tell me what kind of sparked your curiosity and interest in growing this. I mean, you don't need the money at this point, let's be honest.
Well, what sparked my interest is at first I was saying, no, why is this guy calling me? But then as I learned more and more about it, what they were going to do, I'm a big fan of short cycle learning. My books are easy to read because you can read one chapter in 5 or 6, 7 minutes. And you can put it by, you can finish it. I think it's short attention span. I think the way people live today, 15 minutes on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, waiting at the airport, on an airplane, waiting for your wife to be ready to leave. You can watch a 15-minute video and you learn something. And I like this one, Thrive 15, because it stops every 5 minutes and gives you a test. Multiple choice tests. So you get points. And young people today love points. So you're competing with people around the world and you're winning money, you're winning prizes, you're winning, and it keeps track of your winning, how many points you have, what courses you've taken. And there's a course on there, I guess, for everything. Franchising, how to write a business plan, how to get a business loan, how to go to the bank, anything, hiring, firing, customer service, public relations, marketing. They're all on there. And I think it's $49 a month.
Yeah, and $49 a month is a steal. And even better, if you go to thrive15.com and use our offer code SMARTPeople, you can get 30 days for free, and you can check it all out, see if it's for you.
Yeah,
and so, and a full 30 days, I mean, well, I did it, and you can soak up a lot. I got to tell you, the 15-minute video you did on how successful people think, like that's one, I love it because it's one that, again, I watched it, I think I was at an airport, and it gives you brain food for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for 15 minutes, it's pretty good investment. And what were you going to do anyway? Sit around the airport looking out the window?
I was probably going to look at Facebook. And
let me tell you, the amount of time people waste, they could do like many of these a day. People waste so much time, it's incredible.
And what's even better is I know you speak around the world, and I'm assuming you speak on very similar topics. So you can watch the videos, which are high def, all that, or you can pay probably a lot of money to go watch you speak in person. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a win-win.
Well, it is, and I do talk about the same things. Everything even my website, leecockerell.com, my own podcast is on there, and it's called Creating Disney Magic.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
great. We'll have to check that out, and we'll definitely link to that. Well, Lee, first, I can't say thank you enough for taking time out of your day. Really appreciate it. And we mentioned you have a new book, Time Management Magic, How to Get More Done Every Day, and then also Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney. And, of course, Thrive 15, you got your hands on a lot of things, but the world is a better place with your hard-earned knowledge.
Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Take care.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Lee Cockerell. Remember, you can find Lee's book, Time Management Magic, How to Get More Done Every Day and Move from Surviving to Thriving, at Amazon or at your local bookstore. If you do buy it from Amazon, don't forget, go through our Amazon link, smartpeoplepodcast.com/Amazon. You heard Chris and Lee talking about Thrive 15, and we are such huge fans of Thrive 15. We've had Lee on the show, we've had Clay, we've recently become affiliates of Thrive 15. So if you want to learn something every single day, head over to thrive15.com/smartpeople and sign up for your 30-day free trial. Check it out. It's definitely worth it. I want to send a huge thank you to everyone who has headed over to iTunes to leave a review there. We've had a handful of people leave reviews over there, and we truly do appreciate it. So thank you, Some Eston, Summer Austin, Lil Woodwin, all you guys over there, guys and gals that are putting reviews on iTunes. We truly, truly do appreciate it. If you ever want to reach out to the show, we're not more than an email away. You can shoot us an email at smartpeoplepodcast@gmail.com or send us a message on Twitter at smartpeoplepod. Thank you all for listening. We truly do appreciate all the support. Stay tuned for some awesome episodes coming up, and we'll see you next week. Smart People Podcast is supported by Wealthfront, the automated investment service that makes it easy to invest your money the right way. It automatically rebalances your portfolio and reinvests your dividends, all commission-free. Wealthfront manages over $2 billion and has saved millions on taxes for its clients. Visit wealthfront.com/smartpeople to get your first $10,000 managed for free.